grown-up kids, healing the inner child that runs the show. Adulthood often feels like an elaborate game we weren't given the rule book for. One moment, you're responsible for paying bills and navigating complex relationships. The next, you're panicking over what to order at a coffee shop because the barista is staring at you like you should already know. It's a game where the rules aren't just unclear. They seem designed to expose every vulnerability we thought we'd outgrown. What if many of the struggles we face as adults aren't a result of failure, but rather unmet needs carried over from childhood? These unmet needs often linger quietly in the background, influencing how we react, form relationships, and handle challenges. The experiences that shaped us as children continue to play a significant role in our adult lives, whether we're aware of it or not. Think back to your early years. Did you feel safe and supported? Were you allowed to express your emotions freely, or were you told to stop crying or toughen up? Did you feel seen, heard, and valued for who you were, or were love and approval tied to achievement or compliance? These experiences created a blueprint for how you approach the world today. For example, a child who grew up feeling neglected may find themselves craving constant validation as an adult. A child taught that vulnerability is weakness might struggle to open up in relationships. These patterns aren't random. They're the result of emotional needs that went unmet, leaving gaps that they're still trying to fill. One of the biggest challenges in adulthood is recognizing how our past shapes our present. It's easy to dismiss our behaviors as personality traits or quirks, but often they're coping mechanisms we developed to survive emotionally as children. Maybe you've noticed yourself avoiding conflict at all costs, even when it's necessary. Perhaps you work tirelessly to please everyone, or you shut down emotionally when you feel criticized. These behaviors likely served a purpose when you were younger. They kept you safe or helped you gain approval. But now they may be holding you back. Understanding how your past influences your present is the foundation of healing. This isn't about blaming your parents, caregivers, or circumstances. Instead, it's about compassionately acknowledging the impact of those early experiences and taking steps to meet the needs that were once overlooked. By identifying these patterns, you can begin to rewrite the script of your life, choosing new ways to respond to challenges and nurture yourself. This journey starts with curiosity. Ask yourself, what triggers strong emotional reactions in me? What fears or insecurities seem to crop up repeatedly? What unmet needs might be driving these feelings or behaviors? Let's uncover the hidden dynamics that keep us stuck and learn how to reconnect with the inner child that still lives within us. Adulthood may not come with a rule book, but understanding and meeting our inner needs can help us create a life that feels more authentic, joyful, and fulfilling. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by emotions that seem bigger than the situation at hand? Maybe a minor inconvenience leaves you seething with rage, or a casual comment from a friend sends you spiraling into self-doubt. These reactions often feel disproportionate to the moment, but there's a good reason for them. When our emotions feel too big to handle, it's often because they're echoing unmet needs from our childhood. Emotional regulation, the ability to understand and manage our feelings, isn't something we're born knowing how to do. It's a skill we learn through our early interactions with caregivers. Ideally, parents and caregivers provide a safe space for us to express and process our emotions. They validate our feelings, help us name them, and guide us toward calming strategies. But what happens when this process breaks down? If our caregivers were dismissive, critical, or inconsistent, we may have grown up without the tools to navigate our emotions effectively. Instead of learning to process anger, sadness, or fear, we might have learned to suppress them, lash out, or seek comfort in unhealthy ways. When we feel overwhelmed by emotions as adults, it's often because those feelings are rooted in unmet needs. For example, anger might stem from a childhood need for fairness or respect that wasn't met. Sadness could reflect a longing for connection or comfort that went unfulfilled. Anxiety might signal a lack of safety or stability in your early environment. These emotions are like alarm bells, drawing attention to the parts of us that still need care and healing. Instead of dismissing or fighting these feelings, we can approach them with curiosity. What is this emotion trying to tell me? Once we identify the unmet needs behind our emotions, we can begin to address them in healthier ways. Here are a few steps to get started. Name the feeling. Start by identifying what you're feeling. Is it anger, fear, sadness? Giving your emotion a name can make it feel more manageable. Validate your experience. Remind yourself that it's okay to feel this way. Your emotions are valid even if they seem intense or inconvenient. Identify the need. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? This could be reassurance, rest, connection, or simply time to process. Respond with care. Find a healthy way to meet that need. This might mean setting a boundary, talking to a trusted friend, or engaging in a self-soothing activity like journaling or deep breathing. Healing involves learning to meet your emotional needs in ways your caregivers may not have been able to. This process, often called reparenting, is about becoming the supportive, nurturing presence you needed as a child. It takes practice and patience, but over time, you can build the skills to regulate your emotions and respond to life's challenges with greater resilience. As we explore these concepts, remember that big feelings aren't your enemy. They're messengers guiding you toward the parts of yourself that need love, care, and attention. By understanding and addressing these emotions, you can begin to heal the wounds of your inner child and create a more balanced, fulfilling life. Life can feel like a giant game of hide and seek, but instead of hiding from friends in the yard, we're often hiding from ourselves. Whether it's procrastination, perfectionism, or constant busyness, these behaviors are strategies we've developed to avoid facing uncomfortable emotions or unmet needs. While these coping mechanisms might have served us well as children, they often outstay their welcome in adulthood, limiting our growth and happiness. Avoidance behaviors often begin as survival strategies. For instance, a child who faced criticism for making mistakes might grow into an adult perfectionist, believing that flawless execution is the only way to avoid judgment. Similarly, a child who wasn't allowed to express their feelings might grow up bottling emotions, relying on distraction or denial to keep pain at bay. These strategies aren't inherently bad. They helped us cope when we had fewer resources. The problem arises when we continue using them in situations where they no longer serve us, creating patterns that hold us back. Here are some of the most common games we use to avoid emotional discomfort. Procrastination, delaying tasks because the thought of failure or inadequacy feels unbearable. What it's avoiding, fear of not being good enough or fear of criticism. Overachievement, piling on accomplishments to prove your worth to yourself and others. What it's avoiding, feelings of inadequacy or lack of self-worth. People-pleasing, prioritizing others' needs to avoid conflict or rejection. What it's avoiding, fear of abandonment or disapproval. Emotional numbing, using food, alcohol, work, or scrolling to avoid feeling pain or emptiness. What it's avoiding, unprocessed grief, sadness, or loneliness. The first step to breaking free from these games is awareness. Start by noticing when you engage in these behaviors and asking yourself, what am I trying to avoid right now? What emotions or fears might be driving this behavior? This isn't about judging yourself. It's about understanding the root cause of your actions with compassion. Once you've identified your patterns, the next step is to create space for the emotions you've been avoiding. This might involve journaling, talking with a trusted friend or therapist, or simply sitting quietly and allowing yourself to feel. While this process can be uncomfortable, it's also incredibly liberating. By facing your pain instead of running from it, you can begin to heal and move forward. The games we play to avoid pain don't have to define us. As you start to meet your unmet needs and process your emotions, you'll find that you no longer need these coping mechanisms as much. Instead of hiding, you can step into the open, embracing life with greater authenticity and courage. Remember, healing isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Every time you choose to face your pain instead of avoiding it, you're taking a step toward the life you deserve. From the moment we learned how to walk, talk, and tie our shoes, many of us became accustomed to the approval of others, those gleaming gold stars that came in the form of a smile, a pat on the back, or a proud declaration from a parent or teacher. But why do these external affirmations hold so much power over us, even long after childhood? At its core, the craving for validation often stems from early experiences of conditional love or praise. Perhaps you received extra affection when you performed well or withdrew approval when you didn't meet expectations. Over time, we internalize a dangerous message. Our worth is tied to how others perceive us. Imagine a classroom full of children eagerly raising their hands, hoping to answer a question correctly. For some, the excitement comes from a genuine interest in learning. But for others, it's the potential reward, a gold star, a compliment, or simple acknowledgement that fuels the drive. This need often evolves into adulthood, manifesting in subtle yet powerful ways. We become the overachiever at work, the friend who can never say no, or the social media poster anxiously checking for likes. These behaviors may appear harmless, even productive, but they often mask an underlying insecurity. Am I enough without their approval? When validation comes solely from external sources, our sense of self becomes vulnerable. A single criticism can unravel us, and a lack of recognition can leave us questioning our abilities. This cycle is exhausting and unsustainable, yet so many of us remain trapped in it because it's what we know. To break free, it's crucial to recognize the signs of outsourcing self-worth. Do you downplay your successes unless someone else acknowledges them? Are you hesitant to pursue a goal unless it's guaranteed to impress others? These patterns are invitations to explore where your need for approval truly originates. Internal validation is the antidote to chasing gold stars. It's about cultivating a sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on others' opinions. Here's how you can start. 1. Acknowledge your achievements. Write down 3 things you've accomplished today, no matter how small. Did you stick to a boundary? Complete a project? Cook a meal? Celebrate yourself for these wins, even if no one else noticed. 2. Challenge negative self-talk. Pay attention to the inner critic that demands external praise. Instead of thinking, I'll never be good enough, reframe it. I'm proud of the effort I put into this. 3. Set boundaries. Approval seeking often leads to overcommitting. Practice saying no to requests or opportunities that don't align with your values or energy levels. Remember, you are not obligated to earn anyone's approval. 4. Find joy in the process. Instead of focusing on outcomes, immerse yourself in the experience. Whether it's painting, writing, or solving a problem at work, ask yourself, do I enjoy doing this for me? 5. Reflect on childhood influences. Consider the ways your upbringing shaped your views on validation. Did you feel loved only when you achieved something? By recognizing these roots, you can begin to rewrite your narrative. There's freedom in letting go. Releasing the need for external validation doesn't mean you won't appreciate recognition, it simply won't define you. When you build internal validation, compliments become the icing on the cake, not the cake itself. Criticism, while still uncomfortable, won't have the power to dismantle your self-worth. So the next time you catch yourself chasing gold stars, pause and ask, am I doing this for them? Or for me? With practice, you'll find that the brightest star of all is the one shining within you. Have you ever seen temper tantrums in suits and heels? As children, anger often came out in raw, unfiltered ways, screaming, stomping, or hurling a favorite toy across the room. But as adults, temper tantrums rarely look so obvious. Instead, anger hides behind frustration, sarcasm, passive aggressiveness, or eerie silence. It's dressed in business attire or yoga pants, slipping into boardrooms and family dinners alike. The outburst may look different, but the source is often the same unmet need from childhood we've never fully addressed. Anger is a secondary emotion, a signal flare of something deeper beneath the surface: pain, fear, rejection, or the frustration of a long-ignored need. Childhood often shapes how we express or suppress it. Were you taught that anger was bad or shameful? Or did you grow up in an environment where anger was the default response to conflict? When those needs for safety, validation, or understanding go unmet in childhood, we carry them into adulthood. The boardroom meltdown or sarcastic jab at a partner can often be traced back to the same feeling. I'm not being seen, heard, or respected. Modern-day tantrums. Unlike the foot-stomping fits of youth, adult tantrums can be much subtler, though no less destructive. 1. Frustration boiling over. You snap at your coworker over a minor mistake, but the real issue is feeling overworked and unsupported. 2. Passive-aggressive comments. Instead of saying what you need, you deploy sarcasm or make veiled criticisms, hoping someone will magically decode your emotions. 3. Stonewalling or silent treatment. When anger feels overwhelming, some retreat into silence, shutting others out as a way to regain control. These behaviors may temporarily alleviate the discomfort of anger, but often exacerbate the underlying issue. Let's process anger constructively. To stop letting anger control you, it's crucial to understand and process it in healthy ways. Here are some steps to help you transform anger into a tool for growth. 1. Pause before reacting. The heat of the moment is rarely the best time to act. When anger flares, take a breath or walk away. This isn't avoidance, it's creating space to respond rather than react. 2. Identify the true cause. Ask yourself, what am I really angry about? Often, anger is a mask for unmet needs, such as feeling unappreciated, misunderstood, or unsafe. Journaling or speaking with a trusted friend can help uncover the root cause. 3. Release it physically. Anger is energy, and sometimes it needs a physical outlet. Go for a brisk walk, hit a punching bag, or even scream into a pillow if that's what it takes. The goal is to discharge the energy in a way that doesn't harm you or others. 4. Use I statements to communicate. Instead of blaming others, express your feelings with ownership. For example, say, I feel overwhelmed when I don't have clear instructions, rather than, you never explain things properly. This reduces defensiveness and opens the door to productive dialogue. 5. Validate yourself. Anger often arises when we feel invalidated. Instead of waiting for others to meet that need, remind yourself, it's okay to feel angry. My feelings are valid. This simple acknowledgement can be incredibly grounding. 6. Address unmet needs. Long-term growth requires meeting the needs anger is trying to highlight. Whether it's setting boundaries, seeking professional help, or learning self-compassion, addressing these needs can transform anger into an ally. Reframe the anger. Anger itself isn't the enemy, it's a messenger. When we stop fearing it and start listening to it, anger can teach us invaluable lessons about what matters most to us. It can push us to set firmer boundaries, speak our truth, or demand the change we deserve. The next time frustration bubbles up, instead of suppressing it or letting it explode, take a moment to decode its message. Behind the temper tantrum, whether it's wrapped in a suit, heels, or sweatpants, is often a younger version of yourself, still waiting to be heard and cared for. By learning to process anger constructively, we don't just stop it from controlling us. We reclaim it as a powerful tool for understanding ourselves and shaping our lives. Now let's talk about navigating relationships without a map. Relationships are often described as a journey, but for many of us, they feel more like a labyrinth, a confusing tangle of dead ends, wrong turns, and dizzying loops. At the center of this maze are the unhealed wounds and relational patterns we unknowingly carry from childhood. Without a clear map, we often repeat the same mistakes, seeking connection but bumping into walls. Attachment styles are your emotional GPS. Attachment theory, developed by psychologist John Bowlby, provides a framework for understanding how early experiences shape the way we connect with others. Our attachment style acts like an emotional GPS, influencing how we navigate relationships. The 4 attachment styles. 1. Secure attachment. Developed when childhood caregivers were consistently loving and responsive. Traits: comfortable with intimacy, trusting, and able to communicate needs effectively. 2. Anxious attachment. Formed when caregivers were inconsistent, sometimes nurturing, sometimes neglectful. Traits: fear of abandonment, need for constant reassurance, and heightened sensitivity to relationship dynamics. 3. Avoidant attachment. Results from caregivers who were emotionally unavailable or dismissive. Traits: difficulty with intimacy, self-reliance to the point of avoiding vulnerability, and discomfort with emotional closeness. 4. Disorganized attachment. Stems from chaotic or abusive caregiving environments. Traits: a mix of anxious and avoidant behaviors, often accompanied by fear of relationships and trust issues. As children, we learn what to expect from relationships through our caregivers. If those early interactions were supportive, we grow up believing that relationships are safe and rewarding. But if they were unreliable or hurtful, we may carry the scars into adulthood, often without realizing it. For example, if love was conditional on achievements, you might equate your worth with performance. If emotional needs were dismissed, you might suppress them in adulthood to avoid rejection. If relationships were unpredictable, you might cling tightly to partners or push them away to maintain control. The patterns we carry. Unhealed wounds tend to manifest in predictable ways in our relationships. Repeating dynamics. You might unconsciously seek partners who replicate familiar patterns, even if they're unhealthy. Emotional triggers. Small disagreements can feel like massive rejections, prompting outsized reactions. Overcompensation. You might overextend yourself to please others, neglecting your own needs in the process. These patterns aren't signs of failure. They're evidence of a wounded inner child still seeking the love and safety they didn't receive. Breaking free from the maze requires self-awareness, intentional action, and patience. Here's how to start. 1. Understand your attachment style. Reflect on your relationship behaviors. Do you cling to others, avoid vulnerability, or oscillate between the two? Understanding your attachment style is the first step toward change. 2. Heal the inner child. Many relational wounds stem from unmet childhood needs. Nurture your inner child by offering the validation, love, and safety you didn't receive. Therapy, journaling, or guided meditations can help. 3. Set boundaries. Healthy relationships require clear boundaries. Learn to say no without guilt and communicate your needs without fear. 4. Challenge old beliefs. Question the stories you tell yourself about relationships. For instance, I'm too needy could be reframed as, my needs are valid and deserve to be met. 5. Practice vulnerability. Vulnerability is the cornerstone of genuine connection. Share your fears, dreams, and feelings with trusted people, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. 6. Seek partners who support growth. Healthy relationships don't just feel good, they challenge you to grow. Look for partners who respect your boundaries, communicate openly, and support your healing journey. Find your way out of the maze. Relationships, like mazes, aren't meant to be solved in a single step. They require trial and error, patience, and persistence. With each turn, you learn more about yourself, your needs, and the type of connections that truly nourish you. Remember, you're not lost and you're not broken. You're simply finding your way. By facing your wounds, understanding your patterns, and taking intentional steps, you can navigate relationships with greater clarity and confidence. And maybe even enjoy the journey. Hey, the cookie jar is empty. Nah, it's just self-sabotage and scarcity mindset. You open the cookie jar expecting to find your favorite treat, but it's empty. Disappointment floods in, and a voice in your head whispers, see? There's never enough. This scenario might seem trivial, but for many of us, it mirrors a deeper belief that life is a game of scarcity, where there's never enough love, money, time, or success to go around. Do you know what scarcity mindset is? The scarcity mindset is the belief that resources, whether tangible like money or intangible like opportunities, are limited. It's rooted in fear of loss, fear of missing out, fear of not being enough. Signs you're stuck in scarcity. Constant worry, always stressing about running out of time, money, or support. Comparison. Measuring your worth against others' achievements. Grasping behavior, hoarding resources, or clinging to relationships, even when they're unhealthy. Procrastination, avoiding action because failure feels inevitable. Scarcity often begins in childhood, especially in environments where needs weren't consistently met. Whether it was financial instability, emotional neglect, or unpredictability, these experiences teach us that life is uncertain and we must hold tightly to what little we have. Even if your basic needs were met, societal messages can reinforce scarcity. There's only room for one at the top. You have to work twice as hard to succeed. You're falling behind. Over time, this mindset creates a psychological cookie jar that always feels empty, no matter how much you achieve or accumulate. There's a link between scarcity and self-sabotage. Scarcity mindset and self-sabotage go hand in hand. When we believe there's not enough to go around, we act in ways that reinforce that belief, often without realizing it. Common forms of self-sabotage. 1. Procrastination. Delaying action out of fear of failure or success. 2. Overworking. Burning out because you feel you must earn success or security. 3. Settling for less. Staying in unfulfilling jobs or relationships because you don't believe better options exist. 4. Undermining success. Quitting when things start to go well, driven by fear of losing what you've gained. Why we do it. Self-sabotage often stems from a fear of abundance. It sounds paradoxical, but when we've lived in scarcity for so long, success can feel foreign, uncomfortable, even. We might unconsciously pull ourselves back to what feels familiar. Break free from scarcity and self-sabotage. Escaping this cycle starts with awareness. Here's how to replace the empty cookie jar with one that's brimming with possibility. 1. Reframe scarcity beliefs. Challenge the stories you've internalized about lack. Replace thoughts like, there's never enough, with affirmations like, I have everything I need right now. 2. Practice gratitude. Gratitude shifts focus from what's missing to what's present. Each day, list 3 things you're grateful for, no matter how small. 3. Adopt an abundance mindset. Abundance doesn't mean having everything. It means recognizing that opportunities are limitless. Cultivate trust that more love, success, and joy are always available. 4. Address the root cause. Dig into the origins of your scarcity mindset. Journaling, therapy, or even candid conversations can help uncover and heal the wounds driving these beliefs. 5. Set clear intentions. Define what abundance looks like for you. Whether it's financial security, meaningful relationships, or personal growth, having a clear vision helps redirect your energy. 6. Embrace failure. Scarcity says failure is catastrophic. Abundance says failure is a stepping stone. Shift your perspective to see setbacks as part of the journey. Go from empty to overflowing. Imagine opening the cookie jar and finding it full every time. This isn't about magically fixing your life overnight. It's about shifting your perspective. When you believe the jar is always empty, you'll live in fear of it staying that way. But when you trust that it can be refilled by you, by others, by life itself, you begin to act differently. Scarcity and self-sabotage thrive on the idea that you're not enough and that there's not enough. But the truth is, you are enough and there is more than enough to go around. It's time to bake your own cookies, share them generously, and trust that abundance will always return to you. Distractions. Are you one of those people who escape reality through distractions? Remember how recess was the best part of the school day. It was a break from responsibility, a time to breathe, laugh, and forget about math tests or spelling bees. For many of us, recess hasn't ended, it's just changed forms. Instead of playgrounds and kickball, we escape into scrolling through social media, binge-watching TV, overworking, or indulging in habits that numb us. Distractions aren't inherently bad. They can offer much-needed relief and even joy. The problem arises when we use them to avoid emotional wounds or unresolved issues. Why do we escape? Life can be overwhelming. Work stress, emotional pain, financial pressures, and unresolved traumas often feel too heavy to bear. Distractions provide an easy out, a temporary reprieve from the discomfort. But why do we keep choosing recess over reality? To avoid pain, facing emotions can be uncomfortable, so we'd rather suppress them. Fear of failure. If we don't try, we can't fail. Staying busy with distractions feels safer. Instant gratification, dopamine hits from social media likes or Netflix episodes are far easier to chase than long-term goals. Conditioning. If we grew up in environments where emotions were dismissed or problems ignored, avoidance might feel like the norm. Some common distraction habits. Not all distractions look the same, but their underlying purpose is often similar, avoiding reality. 1. Workaholism. The lie, I'm just ambitious. The reality, work becomes a way to avoid personal issues or emotions by staying too busy to face them. 2. Social media and entertainment. The lie, I'm relaxing. The reality, hours of mindless scrolling or binge watching often mask feelings of loneliness, anxiety, or dissatisfaction. 3. Substances. The lie, I deserve this drink, smoke, treat. The reality, substances temporarily numb emotions, but the underlying issues remain unresolved. 4. Hobbies and hobbies gone wild. The lie, it's just a fun hobby. The reality, even productive activities like exercising or crafting can become avoidance mechanisms when they're used excessively. When distractions turn destructive. The tipping point between healthy escapism and avoidance lies in intention. Are you taking a break to recharge, or are you running from something? Here are some signs your distractions are escapes. You feel guilty or anxious afterward. You use them to avoid specific tasks, conversations, or emotions. They consume excessive amounts of time or money. You feel emptier after indulging, not fulfilled. Balance play and reality. Recess isn't the enemy. Play is vital for creativity, stress relief, and mental health. The goal is to enjoy distractions without letting them consume or control you. 1. Identify the root cause. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding? Whether it's a difficult conversation, a decision, or an emotion, naming the issue is the first step to addressing it. 2. Set boundaries with distractions. Create limits for how much time or energy you'll spend on distractions. For example, schedule an hour for TV instead of letting it stretch into the wee hours of the night. 3. Replace avoidance with intentional breaks. Choose activities that nourish you rather than numb you. Meditation, journaling, or even a walk in nature can provide real relief. 4. Practice emotional regulation. Learn to sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of fleeing from them. Techniques like deep breathing, mindfulness, or seeking therapy can help you build this skill. 5. Reconnect with purpose. Ask yourself, what would I do if I weren't avoiding reality? Revisit your goals, passions, or relationships to refocus your energy. 6. Create joyful play. Channel the fun of distractions into intentional play. Dance, laugh, create without guilt or the need for it to fix anything. Escaping reality isn't always bad. Sometimes life is genuinely too much, and a little time out can be exactly what you need. But when recess becomes a permanent refuge, it keeps you from growing, healing, and living authentically. The next time you reach for a distraction, pause. Ask yourself, am I recharging or am I running away? If it's the latter, take a small step toward facing reality, whether that's having a difficult conversation, journaling your feelings, or simply sitting with discomfort. Life is not all seriousness and grind. Play and joy are essential. But when you balance recess with reality, you're no longer escaping life, you're fully living it. Our emotional wounds, the boo-boo that needs a band-aid. If you've ever watched a child fall and scrape their knee, you know the sequence. Shock, a sharp intake of breath, the wail, and finally, the soothing application of a band-aid, sometimes even on an injury that's invisible. As adults, we still have those boo-boos, but they're harder to spot, and they don't heal with a cartoon band-aid. Our emotional wounds are often buried under layers of I'm fine and it's no big deal. But make no mistake, those wounds leave marks. They shape our thoughts, behaviors, and relationships in ways we might not even realize. But the good news is, healing starts with acknowledgement. Let's spot the boo-boo by identifying emotional wounds. Emotional wounds often stem from unmet needs, trauma, or painful experiences. They leave behind beliefs or patterns that affect us long after the initial pain fades. Here are some signs you're carrying emotional wounds. You overreact to certain situations, seemingly out of proportion. You avoid specific topics, people, or emotions. You feel stuck in patterns that don't serve you, for example, sabotaging relationships or avoiding opportunities. Your inner critic is louder than your cheerleader. Common emotional wounds and their roots. 1. Abandonment, fear of being left or unimportant, often stemming from neglect or loss. 2. Rejection, a deep fear of being unloved or unworthy, often tied to criticism or exclusion. 3. Betrayal, struggles with trust due to broken promises or deception. 4. Injustice, a sense of unfairness or being misunderstood, often linked to strict or critical environments. 5. Shame, feeling fundamentally flawed, often rooted in criticism or humiliation. Unhealed wounds don't stay in the past. They follow you into the present. In relationships, you might cling too tightly, push people away, or repeat toxic patterns. In your career, fear of failure or rejection can keep you from pursuing opportunities. With self-worth, negative self-talk and perfectionism often stem from old wounds. With coping mechanisms, distractions, addictions, or overworking might be attempts to numb pain. These patterns aren't failures, they're survival strategies you learned as a child. But as an adult, they may no longer serve you. Here's what you can do. Step 1, acknowledge the pain. Healing starts with facing the boo-boo head-on. This doesn't mean dwelling on the past, but rather understanding how it's influencing you now. Ask yourself, what situations trigger strong emotional reactions? Where do I feel stuck in life? What do I avoid thinking about or addressing? Be honest, it's okay to admit something hurt you, even if others dismissed it at the time. Your feelings are valid. Step 2, understand the impact. Once you've identified the wound, explore how it's affecting your life. Patterns. Notice recurring themes in your relationships, career, or self-talk. Beliefs. Identify limiting beliefs tied to the wound, for example, I'm not good enough or people always leave. Journaling or talking with a trusted friend or therapist can help you connect the dots. Step 3. Replace the Band-Aid with healing. A Band-Aid covers the wound, healing addresses it. Practice self-compassion. Speak to yourself as you would to a hurting child. Acknowledge the pain without judgment. Feel to heal. Allow yourself to feel the emotions you've been avoiding. Cry, scream, or write, whatever helps you process the pain. Challenge old beliefs. Replace limiting beliefs with affirmations grounded in truth. Example, replace I'm unworthy with I deserve love and kindness. Seek support. Healing doesn't have to be a solo journey. Therapy, support groups, or even books can provide guidance. Set boundaries. Protect yourself from people or situations that reopen the wound unnecessarily. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're essential. Step 4. Embrace growth. Healing doesn't erase the scar, but it changes how you see it. Over time, you can transform wounds into wisdom. Celebrate progress. Healing is a journey, not a destination. Acknowledge every step forward. Rewrite your narrative. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of the past, view yourself as a survivor with strength and resilience. Moving forward. Your boo-boos deserve more than a Band-Aid, they deserve healing. By identifying and addressing your emotional wounds, you can break free from old patterns and create a life that feels lighter, fuller, and more aligned with who you truly are. The next time you feel the sting of an old hurt, remember, it's not too late to heal. You're not that child anymore, and you have the power to give yourself the love, care, and understanding you always needed. You can parent the little you the way you needed to be parented. Imagine your younger self, the child who wanted to feel safe, loved, and understood, but didn't always get those needs met. What would you say to them now? How would you care for them if you had the chance? That's the essence of reparenting, stepping into the role of a compassionate, nurturing caregiver for the inner child still living inside you. You don't need a time machine to do it. You have the power right now to provide the love and support your younger self was missing. Reparenting is a therapeutic process where you identify unmet needs from your childhood and take intentional steps to meet them as an adult. It's about rewriting the narrative of neglect or harm by becoming your own source of safety, validation, and care. This doesn't mean blaming your parents or caregivers. It means recognizing that they may have done their best with what they knew and had. Reparenting is about taking responsibility for your healing moving forward. Here's why reparenting matters. Childhood wounds don't magically disappear with age. Instead, they shape our adulthood in subtle but significant ways like these. Emotional triggers, reacting strongly to situations that mimic childhood pain. Self-talk, internalizing the critical or dismissive voices we heard as kids. Relationships, seeking validation or repeating unhealthy patterns. Reparenting allows you to break free from these cycles and create a foundation of self-love and self-trust. Meet your inner child. The first step in reparenting is connecting with the little you. 1. Visualize your younger self. Close your eyes and picture yourself as a child. Imagine what you looked like, what you enjoyed, and what made you feel scared or sad. What did you need most at that age? What words or actions would have comforted you? 2. Listen to your inner child. Your inner child speaks through your emotions, instincts, and reactions. Pay attention to moments you feel. Unworthy, that's the little you seeking validation. Scared, they're looking for safety. Angry, they're asking to be heard. When you notice these feelings, pause and ask, what do you need right now? Steps to reparent yourself. 1. Provide unconditional love. As a child, love might have felt conditional, earned through good behavior or achievements. Now, you can give yourself the love you always deserved. Practice self-compassion. Remind yourself daily, I am worthy of love just as I am. 2. Set boundaries. Children thrive on structure and safety, and so do adults. Learn to protect your time, energy, and emotional well-being by setting boundaries with others. Say no when something feels wrong for you. Prioritize relationships that respect your limits. 3. Validate your feelings. Did you grow up hearing phrases like, stop crying, or it's not that bad? Those dismissals can leave lasting scars. Validate your emotions by acknowledging them without judgment. It's okay to feel this way. Allow yourself to cry, rage, or laugh without shame. 4. Nurture yourself. Take care of your physical and emotional needs the way a loving parent would. Eat well, sleep enough, and exercise. Comfort yourself with small joys like cozy blankets, warm baths, or favorite childhood treats. 5. Encourage play and creativity. Remember how much you loved playing as a child. Reclaim that joy. Dance, paint, garden, or build Lego castles. Let go of the need for perfection. It's about having fun. 6. Speak kindly to yourself. Replace self-criticism with encouragement. Instead of "I'm so stupid," try "I'm learning and that's okay." Be your own cheerleader. You've got this. 7. Apologize to yourself. If you've ignored or dismissed your inner child in the past, apologize. "I'm sorry I didn't listen to you before. I hear you now." Rewrite old stories. Our childhood experiences often create beliefs like "I'm not good enough" or "I can't trust anyone." Reparenting involves challenging those narratives and replacing them with healthier truths. The old story: "I'm only lovable when I achieve something." The new truth: "I am lovable just as I am without needing to prove anything." The old story: "My needs don't matter." The new truth: "My needs are valid and deserve to be met." There's power in small acts. Reparenting doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes it's as simple as hugging yourself and saying, "You're safe," allowing yourself to rest when you're tired, or saying "I love you" to your reflection. Parenting your inner child isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about nurturing what's whole. Every time you meet your needs, validate your feelings, or show yourself love, you heal a little more. You can't change the past, but you can change how it affects you today. By stepping into the role of your own loving parent, you create a brighter, healthier future for the little you and the adult you're becoming. You've got this, and your inner child is cheering you on. Here's to building healthy relationships. Relationships are where we bring our emotional baggage, unpack it, and hopefully sort it out, but only if we're willing to show up authentically. Healthy connections don't happen by accident. They require effort, self-awareness, and a commitment to growth. The foundation of healthy relationships. At their core, relationships are about connection. Whether with friends, family, or partners, healthy relationships allow you to feel seen, heard, and valued. Here's what that looks like. Mutual respect, valuing each other's feelings, time, and boundaries. Trust, believing in each other's intentions and reliability. Open communication, sharing thoughts and feelings honestly. Empathy, understanding and validating each other's perspectives. Here are some steps you can take to build healthy relationships. Step 1. Set boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls. They're bridges that protect your well-being while allowing connection. Without them, relationships can become draining, one-sided, or toxic. Boundaries are limits you set to protect your emotional, physical, and mental health. They help you. Say no without guilt. Advocate for your needs. Respect others without sacrificing yourself. The following can help you set boundaries. Know your limits. Identify what feels uncomfortable or overwhelming. Communicate clearly. Use I statements to express your needs. For example, "I need some quiet time after work to recharge." Be consistent. Enforce your boundaries calmly but firmly. Accept pushback. People may not like your boundaries at first. That's okay. It's their job to adjust, not yours to compromise. Step 2. Practice authentic communication. Healthy relationships thrive on honest, open communication. This means expressing your feelings and needs without fear of judgment or rejection. The keys to authentic communication. Speak your truth. Share your thoughts and emotions even if they feel vulnerable. Listen actively. Give your full attention and validate what the other person is saying. Avoid assumptions. Don't guess what others think or feel. Ask. Use I statements. Focus on your experience rather than blaming. For example, "I feel hurt when plans change without notice," instead of "You never consider my feelings." Step 3. Repair trust. Trust is the glue of any relationship, but even the strongest connections can crack. Repairing trust takes time, effort, and a genuine willingness to heal. Steps to rebuild trust. Acknowledge the hurt. If you've broken someone's trust, take responsibility. Avoid excuses or deflecting. Example, I understand that what I did hurt you and I regret it. Show consistency. Rebuilding trust requires consistent actions that align with your words. Be patient. Trust isn't restored overnight. Allow the other person time to process and heal. Set clear expectations. Discuss what both parties need to feel safe moving forward. Cultivate relationships that enrich your life. Healthy relationships don't drain you, they fill your cup. Here's how to nurture the connections that matter most. Celebrate each other's wins. Instead of competing or feeling envious, cheer each other on. Shared joy strengthens bonds. Practice empathy. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. Ask questions like, how can I support you right now? Invest time and energy. Quality relationships require regular maintenance. Make time to connect, whether through deep conversations, shared activities, or simply being present. Embrace vulnerability. Letting someone see your authentic self can feel risky, but it's the foundation of true intimacy. And still, relationships are challenging. Even healthy relationships face conflicts. What matters is how you handle them. Pause before reacting. Take a moment to calm down and reflect before addressing the issue. Address issues directly. Don't let resentment fester. Discuss problems openly and respectfully. Know when to let go. If a relationship is consistently harmful or one-sided, it may be time to walk away. Building new connections. If you feel isolated or disconnected, it's never too late to build new relationships. Pursue shared interests, join groups or activities aligned with your passions. Be open to reaching out. Take the initiative to introduce yourself or reconnect with old friends. Focus on quality over quantity. A few meaningful relationships are more fulfilling than dozens of superficial ones. Healthy relationships are a two-way street. They require you to show up as a whole person while respecting others' needs and boundaries. By setting limits, communicating honestly, and rebuilding trust when needed, you can cultivate connections that bring joy, support, and enrichment to your life. Remember, the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. When you prioritize your own well-being, you show up more authentically in all your connections. Sharing truly is caring, but it starts with caring for you.